All right. Welcome back to Less Lethal Contingencies. Alan here. All right. So today we're going to discuss, uh, O-rings, replacement O-rings. I have my Pistelle and X-Works Pistelle X-68 here, and we're just going to go over some O-rings and what's been my experience with the replacing O-rings in the X-68, and this is going to be also applicable to the IntruBuster Gen 2 as well, since the bolt and valve assembly is pretty much identical for the most part anyways. Yeah, so we're going to go over that. We'll go over the common O-rings that you're going to need to service, lubricate, and also at times you may find yourself replacing them. I will have some links in the video description field of this actual video with some of the O-rings that I have purchased and tested. It's not an end-all be-all by any means. It's not only the only brands or suppliers that you can find O-rings with, but I will list the ones that I've been recently using and have had success with. Yeah, so let's get into it. All right, so our X-68, I have a Home Defense 24 short tuning ASA on the back, but possibly all you have is the stock factory back cap and piston, or what I call firing pin as well. This one here is the factory that you take off with the 4mm hex key, and it indeed has two O-rings on it. The larger one is what we would call a 021. Okay, I have a polyurethane material O-ring here, and also this orange one on the end of the pin here is what we call the 011. Okay, that is also urethane. Urethane material is probably going to be the best material, so when you're looking at O-rings, you want to look at that. These O-rings at 90D hardness definitely hold up the best. They hold up really well with CO2. If you go with a regular 90 duro O-ring and it's not urethane, you'll find that sure they'll work, but they won't last as long. Okay, because some O-ring materials are not as good at well, some O-ring materials will absorb the CO2 and it'll break down the material, the rubber. Urethane doesn't do that. So you're going to get a longer mileage out of the urethane O-rings. So that's what you want to be looking for, the 011, 021. Also inside, we'll see here in a minute when I pull it out, there's another 021 on what I call the Birdcage or air plenum, or some people call it a spacer. Essentially, this is one of them. This is one I had modified actually, but inside there's an inner O-ring, inner Birdcage O-ring. So when I say Birdcage, this is what I'm talking about, the spacer or air plenum. And then the outside has got a 021 as well. Again, all O-rings should be, if you want the longevity out of them, you really should be using a urethane. However, if all you ever do is shoot high pressure air and you never use CO2, you could get away with regular 90 duro. So we're going to take this off here and we'll pull the bolt and valve assembly out. Okay, so again, on this Home Defense 24 short tuning ASA, right? This is the factory, this is the tuning ASA, which allows you to connect high pressure air bottle to the back, or you can run it capped off and then it acts like a expansion for increased power. So factory, and this would be considered a performance modification, okay? But again, using the same O-ring, this is a 7.65 millimeter by 7.8 millimeter cross section O-ring is what I'm running in urethane on the pin or the piston. And again, this here is you may be able to make it out. It's kind of a light whitish color, but this is yet another brand's urethane 021. Okay. The measurement of the 021 is 5/16 ID by 1 1/16 OD by 1/16 cross section. Okay, so that is this little animal here. This particular brand that I got these urethane 021s at, this was from the O-ring store. I'll leave a link in the description field of this video for these. However, you can get them you can source them through other places. You might be able to source them through Captain O-ring, AliExpress. Certainly, you can source them. So again, the dimensions you're looking at for these 021s is 5/16 inside diameter by 1.16 of an inch outside diameter, and the cross section is 1/16 of an inch cross section. I did find a metric comparable sizing of 23.52 millimeters inside diameter, if you're looking for metric, by 1.78 millimeter cross section. That would be the metric equivalent. So like I said, I'll leave a link to these. All right, so that's your 021, which is used in your end cap here. The end cap if you're using a performance mod, and it's also used on the Birdcage, right, which we see here on this Birdcage. But let me take this one out. I'll show you. I'll take a look at this. Okay. What we have here is we have this now taken off the Birdcage, aka spacer. It's an air plenum, depending on what you want to call it. Again, most of us call it Birdcage. This one here is probably one of the easier ones to take off. You just kind of pinch it, and you can pull it off very easily like that. Off of the back cap, or the tuning ASA, you probably could get it off that way. Yeah, I'm seeing him squeezing it here, and you can see it starting to shift a little bit, okay? So you can work it off pretty easy that way. This one on the pin sometimes can be a bugger. You may need to use a pick, some kind of a pick like this, or better yet, I'll use a pick like this. It's really thin, but it's also sharp, so you got to be careful. If you're not planning on reusing the O-ring, no big deal. Just try not to scratch the metal, the O-ring groove that the O-ring sits in. Try to be careful with that. Of course, you don't want to run this thing through your finger either. Trust me, been there, done that. But a pick like this would come in handy. Okay, for the firing pin O-ring or the piston O-ring. But as far as the Birdcage is concerned, air plenum, spacer, on and off, very easy, guys, no problem. Now, within here, there is a inner Birdcage O-ring, okay? This one here carries the dimensions. It's only available in metric that I've found, and it is indeed a 13 millimeter by 1.5 millimeter cross section, okay? Again, I have sourced these. These are in urethane, 90 dual strength, and I'll have these linked in the description field as well, okay? And I'll also link the 011, which is the firing pin or piston. I'll link those as well in there, and that's at 7.65 millimeter by 1.78 millimeter. These are the ones I've had the best luck with. I've tested a lot of other ones, and they usually end up flying out my barrel. Since I started using these, I have not, and I must credit one of my subs, good friend of the channel, Barry. You're out there somewhere. Thank you for sending these to me to test. I have had zero problems with these. Now, I haven't really tested these a lot yet. Matter of fact, I'm going to swap one out today and probably do some testing with it. But these are the right size, 13 millimeter by 1.5 millimeter. Okay. Currently, I have one of these air conditioning ones in here, which I did have fail on me the other day. So I'm going to take it out and I'm going to replace it with one of these urethane ones. Now, if you haven't replaced these ever in your marker, whether it be the X-68 or whether it be the IntruBuster Gen 2, unless you've tried everything else, you've replaced the other O-rings, the easy ones to get to, I wouldn't go replacing that proactively unless there's no other choice. You still have a leak. You've replaced this O-ring here, the 011. Maybe you've replaced both of your 021s and you're still having a problem. Then you could replace this one. But I say that because many times we proactively replace things and there's nothing wrong with them, right? And then we create a problem. In here, when you're replacing this O-ring with a pick, you got to be very, very careful that you do not. This is soft metal. I believe this one is just aluminum, if I'm not mistaken. Very soft metal. It's very easy. When you get in here with a pick, you got to go careful. Okay. Nice and easy. And there we go. There's your inner O-ring. Okay. But I can't stress enough. Be careful with these picks. And don't replace them unless you have to. You know, I mean, if it's you've replaced all the easy stuff, you still got a leak, okay, fine. You know, source the right size O-ring, go ahead and give it a place. But from the factory, they ship with urethane O-rings. They should last a long, long time. You should not be having problems with them, okay? Incidentally, most of our problems with O-rings come from the pin O-ring, the 011. Okay, most of the problem, they fly off the gun. They tend to roll if they're not tight enough. Yeah, so this is just an automotive AC one. It's CO2 rated, but as you can see, it's very soft. They work. These work. These green ones that you can get at Harbor Freight do work. I've been running this one for a while. I had one fail the other day on me, though. And at the time, I didn't have these urethanes in yet. So I just stuck another one on, continued using it. Again, you know, you're rolling the dice. I mean, they hold up to CO2, so that's good, but you know, they do fail from time to time. So we're going to replace this today with one of these urethane. Now, this package, the 13 by 1.5 millimeter inner birdcage O-ring, and urethane, the orange one, and these were both, they both were purchased from AliExpress, okay? I'll leave links in the description field for these. So taking that out, like I said, be careful with the picks. You don't want to scrape up. If you manage to scrape up really bad and score up that channel, or that, yeah, I guess channel or track, or that the O-ring sits in, then you may be looking at replacing the whole bolt and valve assembly, okay? MCS does carry replacement X-68 bolt and valve assemblies. If you need it for IntruBuster Gen 2, they are fully compatible. Matter of fact, in my IntruBuster Gen 2, I'm running an X-68 Gen 2 bolt and valve assembly. Thing works perfect all day long. The only difference is it's got an O-ring on the bolt tip. And I've actually found it to be, at least, it actually is better than my original bolt that I came in my IntruBuster. I was having problems finding the right size O-ring and constantly having O-rings shooting down the barrel on that one. But anyways, long story short, I resolved that problem by running an X-68. An X-68 bolt and valve in there. However, I have word that the 011, the 7.65 millimeter by 1.78 millimeter, these here that I'll link in there, actually work out really well and are reliable on the IntruBuster Gen 2 as well. I know some guys go with, instead of a 1.78, they may order their O-rings, their pin O-rings for the IntruBuster Gen 2. They'll order them at 2 millimeter cross section. Yeah, you could have luck with that too, but the 1.7 seems to be fine. So that went in there nice and easy, okay? Sometimes you can just put your little pinky in there and keep it, you know, just push it into the channel, and that should be it, okay? So that's the 13 millimeter metric by 1.5 millimeter cross section, the inner birdcage O-ring. So as you can see, that wasn't too bad. Had the green one in there, took that out, and now I got the urethane one in here. Okay. So we're going to slip that back on. Actually, let's take the bolt out. It's good to inspect your bolt O-ring every once in a while as well. I believe that was a 014, if I'm not mistaken, that I put on there. I had replaced it once, but they don't typically wear too often, but it's good to keep an eye on it. All right. And when you're fitting this, it should go on snug, but not overly tight, that inner birdcage O-ring, okay? And of course, good idea to lube her up, right? You don't want these things running dry. Couple drops of lubrication with every silicone lubrication with every cartridge will do you wonders. Or if you're running HBA, a couple drops down the back of the ASA before you air up. Okay. What I'm using here is SuperLube silicone lubricant. It's actually the one for O-rings. And although I have the other one as well, the multi-purpose one, as far as I can tell, the only difference is this is thicker. And it's been working out pretty good because it's a little thicker. Just going to put some on the valve. Throw some on in here. This way we ain't starting off dry. Whoop. Slippery, slippery. Just working around a little bit. There's the bolt bumper. Okay. And that right there I actually got, it's just a, what they call it? It's just a plastic 1 millimeter, I think it's thickness, clear plastic bolt bumper that I've been using here. Got a package of them pretty cheap. It's been holding up really good. It's better than what was on there. What was on there was falling apart. It was just like a rubber. This is like a nylon type plastic, and it's been handling the abuse really nice. No problems with that. Wants to stick a lot of times to the bird cage. All right, so we're just gonna throw a little extra O-ring, silicone O-ring SuperLube on there. All right. And that's it. I mean, for the most part, the only other O-ring you have in the gun, besides the bolt tip, the inner, the two 021s, the pin 011, this 14 right here, which, you know, you should inspect it, but you shouldn't find yourself replacing it much. Unless you're using like maybe a real corrosive lubricant in the gun, then maybe. I know some guys have theorized that maybe that might have been why their bolt O-ring started deteriorating, but I haven't seen the problem. Yeah, I mean, that's the O-rings you're looking at. There is another O-ring inside there on the spring stop, but it doesn't seal anything. It's a 019 if you do want to replace it. And in order to replace it, you're looking at disassembling. Well, let's put it this way. You can get it out pretty easy. But putting it back in, that bolt spring stop, you would have to take this top assembly off, and there's a whole procedure you got to follow. So I wouldn't horse around with that. It doesn't seal anything. It's more of a bump, like a cushion or so. So I wouldn't mess with that unless you had no choice. Like if you stuck a cleaning thing down the barrel with the back out and you managed to dislodge that spring stop, now the only way you're getting it back in is you're pulling the gun apart further. So, all right, so that is pretty much it. We got the new inner birdcage O-ring. We went over these common O-rings. Like I said, I'll link all the I'll link to the O-rings that I've been using and been testing for a while. However, like I said, you don't have to use those links. If it's helpful in this video, just to get the measurements might be helpful for you. But yeah, that's didn't even have to pull the trigger really for that one. Sometimes you do, sometimes you don't. It depends on, I guess, where the bolt's sitting when you go to screw this on. Yeah, so that's it. All right, that's the O-rings. I mean, there are some smaller O-rings that are inside the onboard regulator inside here, but you only replace those if you got a leak, and so far I haven't had any problems with it. There's also an O-ring, I believe, on the CO2 chamber where it screws into the aluminum inner chassis here. Again, if you're not having a leak, I wouldn't worry about that. So, but that is it. Yeah. Hopefully this video is of some help to anybody out there. Again, you don't have to go use the links that are in this video if you just want to grab whatever information as far as sizing goes. And you could source them through another vendor, another company. But I will include the links. So anyways, hopefully you guys are having a great day and you find this video useful. If you do find it useful, please give it a like and subscribe if you would. If you're not already subscribed, why not? Subscribe for more less lethal content. Peace out, brothers.